You're watching The Winds. WNDS TV 50, serving New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts. TV 50 Sports and the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association present Candlepin Stars and Strikes. From Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, it's the Clyde Garfield Cadillac Olds Championship.
Gonna split it. Look at this. Yes! Oh, wow! Right in the pocket.
My goodness.
Oh, there was never a doubt about that one. Good looking ball. Yes.
And now your hosts for Candlepin Stars and Strikes, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Once again, welcome to Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, New Hampshire. Doug Brown along with Gary Duffett filling in for Dan Murphy, and it's series championship time once again here on Stars and Strikes. We have 4 qualifiers already for our season-ending Tournament of Champions, and at the end of this hour, we're going to have number 5.
One thing for sure, somebody named Scott is going to win.
If only it were always this easy. But that's the way it'll happen today. We've got Scott Richardson looking for his 3rd win in a row, and our number 1 seed, Scott Rondelli, coming in. So let's meet our 2 bowlers and give you a look at their form in slow motion. First of all, a guy who's won 2 consecutive matches here on Stars and Strikes, although last week he really had to pull a heroic finish to do it, Scott Richardson.
Well, he's on a roll on that the 4 mark in a row finish from last week. He's got 2 victories under his belt. He should feel very confident coming into today's match.
Except he wasn't real happy about punching out the 3-pin in that warm-up ball, but he knows that doesn't count. We don't count that at all, so it doesn't really matter. Now, our number 1 seed, of course, is known for quite some time that he would have a shot at the big money and a chance at the Tournament of Champions, but now he has an opponent. He was here just a few months ago for a match where he bowled very well, over 400, but lost. So now he's back to give it another try, Scott Rondelli.
Well, he gets a chance to avenge that particular loss. You really can't call that a loss when you bowl 400. You know, he did well, and I'm sure he'll do well today.
Scott, as you can see, also throws very, very hard. We're looking forward to a barn burner of a match here in our series championship. $1,000 to the winner, $500 to the runner-up. But the bigger prize to the winner, of course, is automatic qualification into the Tournament of Champions, and we'll tell you more about the seedings for that as we get along during the course of the next hour. We also have our bonus ball contest worth $30 at the end of this week's show, and lots more to tell you about, too. We'll come back and get it all started. Scott Richardson and Scott Rondelli for the Ladder Championship right after these messages. All right, here's the picture. We have arrived once again at series championship time, and this time it's the number 1 seed against the number 3 seed. Bob Francoeur won the first match of this series, and then Scott Richardson has come up with 2 in a row to propel himself into this championship match against Scott Rondelli, the number 1 seed. And you see we've been talking about how close the roll-off scores have all been. Of course, none of those count anymore, but it's interesting to notice how closely bunched they all were. We mentioned that Pete Brooks, who finished 6th, and just out of the money as far as appearing here on the program, finished with a 635 and just 1 pin behind Bob Francoeur. But that is all history now, and we're ready to go with the championship match. Scott Richardson and Scott Rondelli, and it will be Scott Richardson to start it off. Scott now 4-3 on Candlepin Stars and Strikes after winning the last 2 weeks. But they haven't been easy wins by any means.
No, they haven't been pretty either. And this first frame is no exception. Scott buried that ball in the 1-2 pocket and left the 7-9-10.
Oh my. Now the half-wister left. And 2 more. You saw Chuck Langlois last week hit a half-wister on the left and right side on the first 2 balls, and then punch out the 1 and the 5 in the middle. 6 box for Scott Richardson. Gotta watch that.
Now we get to see our first left-hander in the telecast.
Scott Rondelli was here just 3 months ago, back on January 15th, in fact. threw a 410 and lost to Bob Mazur, who fired a 424. In that match, Scott Rondelli had 18 marks. He went 135, 141, 134, and still lost by 14. 10 bucks.
And he gets the 10. Yeah, I was in that particular roll-off. Bob Mazur is the one that knocked me off before facing Scott.
It's a heck of a match. I'm sure Scott would love to make amends.
Then Bob went on to lose to, who was it, Mike Morgan?
Yes, I believe you're right. Right indeed, and there's a spare for Scott Rondelli. Mike Morgan, in fact, won that ladder championship over Bob Mazur by just 3 pins, and Mike, as of this moment, is seated 4th among our 4 qualifiers for the Tournament of Champions. We'll run down all the scores for you a little bit later on.
There's a break for Scott. Plenty of wood right in front of that 6-pin.
Oh my, oh my. Well, of all the frustrating things that can happen, that probably tops the list. That's a gimme.
Well, you know, you got to get yourself, first you feel embarrassed about the whole thing. And I'm sure some crazy thoughts are going through his head right now. He's just got to shake it off, come right back.
Well, he has struggled in these 2 wins even. He has averaged just a little under 122, 121 and a half actually, for the 6 strings the last 2 weeks. And a 9 box.
Well, Scott Rondelli has to consider that to be a gift. And now he can jump out to a nice little lead here.
Plus, he's working on a mark opposite a 5 box, but he fills it with just 5.
Certainly a makeable shot.
Oh, cut it a little too much.
Yeah, a little too fine.
Waiting for some wood. Appears to be lined up for the sweep on the 6 and 10. And the 10 box. The qualifiers so far for the Tournament of Champions, our number 1 seed as of the moment is Pat Pay with a 412. Right behind him is Bob Moran with a 411. Ed Arsenal with a 410. And then Mike Morgan with the 397. Again, the 3-string total for the Series Championship match will determine the seedings for the Tournament of Champions. So whichever guy wins this match will go in with that score to determine his seeding position. And Scott Rondelli misses a single.
It wasn't quite as easy as the one that Scott Richardson had.
So 11 pins the difference for Scott Rondelli. By the way, that Tournament of Champions we will be taping here at Park Place Lanes in Wyndham on Sunday, April the 30th. He make plans to be here for part or all of it. And there's Scott Richardson checking in with his first mark, and it is a strike.
He doesn't have to worry about a single pin on that one. That's Scott's favorite pocket, the 1-3 pocket.
He buried that ball. He's up a little short this time, but he gets a few extra and winds up with the 1, 9, and 10.
The wood isn't going to really play a factor in it at all.
Scott has had his share of marks during the last 2 weeks, but the fills have not been what he would like.
And he's had a few bad boxes, too. He hasn't pinned as well as he'd like.
He had a 376 2 weeks ago in beating Bob Francoeur, and then a 353 last week in a come-from-behind win against Chuck Langlois. And there's a big strike for Scott Rondelli, matching the one by Richardson in the 5th.
No doubt on that one.
That was just as impressive from the left side.
Big factor here, too. He crosses over into the 1-3 pocket. And if he can carry that one, he knows he's going to carry the 1-2 coming in from the left side.
He crosses over again, and he's got a double. Oh, that was the same ball, just about. In fact, it looked like he went a little farther out on that one.
He did, a little bit more, but he's got the good mixing action. But it could have been 3 in a row. You know, he had a 9-pin drop just before that.
Scott Richardson now. A double strike can change things around so dramatically.
Scott's hoping this wood will do something nice for him, but it isn't going to.
Well, he may try for the sweep, but it's going to be a tough opportunity.
It's one where I just play the 2 pins. Drive the 6-pin into the wall and hope it comes off. Scott Richardson has dug himself a little bit of a hole early in the match. But he did that last week, too.
Scott lives in Hudson, New Hampshire. He's a chemical technician at Sanders Associates. And he picks up the spare.
Great shot.
After a bad first ball, he turns it into a mark.
Yeah, a little bit of help from the wood.
All right, now Scott Rondelli working on a double strike. Looking for the triple, and he's a little short on the head pin.
He really sends those pins spinning. That'd be an interesting shot. Play this one right down at the 7-pin.
Yes, the ball came back to get it.
Get it.
The ball will come back to get the 10-pin.
Ricocheted right off the red line.
And you see how quickly the pins can mount up with that double strike, particularly when you put a spare on top of it. 109 through 7.
Nice try.
Tried to cut the 2 over into the 6. Our major participating sponsor for this series championship on Candlepin Stars and Strikes are the people at Clyde Garfield Cadillac Oldsmobile on Daniel Webster Highway in Nashua. Hope you'll pay them a visit. Tell them you saw about them on TV50's Candlepin Stars and Strikes.
Scotty's got the triangle here. Piece of wood rolling into play.
Scott Rondelli right now has a 30-pin lead. Spare for Scott Richardson, 2 in a row. Now, when a double strike is up there against you, you can't afford to let it get too far out of hand. Oh, boy.
Tough shot. Play the 2 pins on the left-hand side. Wood's rolling off.
Oh, wow. Boy, I don't think he could have done that again if he'd wanted to. He capped the wood between the 4 and the 7 and didn't take anything out over there. So he'll settle for a 10 and a 113. Well, you see Scott Rondelli is in the driver's seat here. Light on that 1-3 pocket, but again, he gets great action over there.
That got a tough piece of wood.
That piece of wood probably is in play, but Dottie is going to go down and check it out. We'll see. If it is in play, it could very well mess up the shot.
Yeah.
It is in play.
He can just get by it, though.
There's what he's looking at. And he's got it.
Drove the wood straight back. We're going to have our best game of the series.
Well, Scott Rondelli has the best average of anybody in this series at 126, and he is pouring it on right now. He's at 147 plus 2 balls to come in the 10th.
3 strikes. He could have had another one.
It'll be an 8 and a 155. So Scott Rondelli moves out to a big lead after 1 string. A long way to go, though. Stars and Strikes, the series championship match, will continue in a minute. Before we get back to the action here on Stars and Strikes, a reminder about our bonus ball contest. Send your postcards in, regular size only, please, and make sure you include your name and your full address and the number from 1 to 10, and mail them into Park Place Lanes, Route 28, Windham, New Hampshire, 03087. And, of course, every week we try and see if we can't get a match and get a winner. We'll have $30 up for grabs at the end of this show, and if not, we add $10 every week. Scott Rondelli with a 155 opening game has a 42-pin lead as we start game number 2.
Scott doesn't believe in holding anything back. He throws that ball about 100 miles an hour.
Ooh, maybe. No.
Just in front.
No, he doesn't have a changeup, it appears. $10. This is something Dan and I get into a talk about on a show several weeks ago, Gary, about the fact that why more bowlers don't, for strategy purposes, throw different speeds, because it can help on certain shots. But of course, it would change your mechanics and all of that.
But there are times though when it doesn't hurt to do that. When you need to, you know, flip a pin off the wall and have it kick across, sometimes that little extra speed will help you get it. But as a rule, I wouldn't recommend changing speeds.
That was a heck of an effort on the spare try for Scott Rondelli.
Yeah, while we're talking, there's a good match going on.
Pair of 10s.
Scott Rondelli has pinned real well. He only left 2 pins standing in the first game.
Oh, my. Trying to convert the half Worcester for a spare and leaves the 7-pin. Well, you wonder what kind of scores Scott Richardson would be putting up if he'd been getting more results on his first ball, because he's been pulling some great escapes.
Yeah, he has. His first ball has just been in and out. It's either been very good or very bad. He's especially had trouble on the left-hand alley.
Right.
It looks as though the ball is breaking a lot more for him on one alley than the other, because he keeps missing to the right-hand side on the left alley.
And off to the right again. He was fortunate to have even an opportunity for a spare after that first ball, and again was off to the right. And again.
He can't afford not to throw marks at this point, being down 40 pins, 40 plus.
Scott Rondelli.
Scott Rondelli can't afford to let up either. You know, he's shooting for a good position in the final roll-off.
That's right. In these series championship matches, the way they're set up now, you're bowling against the other bowler, but also against the others who come before and after you.
Score means a lot.
I mentioned the last time Scott was here that throwing as a left-hander, he has an exaggerated kind of kick out of the left leg when he slides, and when he's on this right-hand lane next to the ball return, the leg actually kicks over and kicks into the ball return more often than not.
Yeah, there's a number of people that do that. You can tell from the ball returns, you can see a lot of scuff marks on the side.
Have to repaint those things every once in a while, eh?
Of course, some of them it's from having made a bad shot and then turning around and kicking the ball return.
Which we don't recommend. It doesn't help. Scott Richardson with a good-looking first ball that time, trying for the 3-6 on the spare leave. And no. Next week with 5 brand, and of course that will be the last regular series from which we will get our final qualifier for the Tournament of Champions.
Ooh. Made a real good bid at that.
Yep, trying to slide that 5-pin over. It'll be a 9-box, and we will pause right here. Scott Rondelli has added 1 pin to his lead. It was 42 coming into this second game. About halfway through the series championship, $1,000 to the winner. We'll be back with more in a minute. The southpaw, Scott Rondelli, set to pick it up in box number 5 of this middle game. Take a look from behind. Right in the pocket. Boy, you had a good look at that one as that ball broke over to the, what for Scott Rondelli is the Brooklyn side, the 1-3 pocket.
Just managed to kick that 5-pin out.
That's his 4th strike of the match already. Two of them came in a row.
He does more than just throw it hard, too. He's got a lot of turn on the ball, which gets the pins dancing.
Oh, baby, what a shot that was.
What a great shot.
Wow. Take another look at that one.
To throw hard and be that accurate, it's a deadly combination.
That was a pretty shot. Scott Richardson now. A little light.
Scott's going to have to throw lights out for the remainder of the match.
Straight through the middle that time for the spread eagle.
Wood on the left-hand side. Play the side without the wood.
Oh, one time maybe. Nope. The 3-pin will stay. Scott Rondelli steps up on a spare this time. He'll add to his lead.
He's throwing for score now.
And again, another big first ball, but it was the kick off the wall that worked for him.
It took out 3 pins for him. 4, 5, 7.
Leaving the 10-pin, the wood will not be a factor. right there.
All over it.
We've talked about this before, Gary. Sometimes when you do throw so hard, you would sacrifice a little accuracy, but that doesn't seem to be a problem in Scott Rondelli's case.
No, not in his case. He missed the first single he had to shoot at, but since then he's been very accurate.
A 7-fill this time.
He's going to have to be up a little above that red line.
Nope.
Yeah, he played it low, but the 5-pin wasn't covered.
Strike for Scott Richardson. His second of the match. He needs to start putting them together, though.
Yeah, that's his favorite pocket.
And this time, right through the middle.
Good piece of wood down there that might be a helper if it stays on the plate, which it's going to. Still moving, though. Scott's got no choice. He's going to have to play that right-hand piece of wood just up above the red line and hope it moves.
It did. Oh, and that second piece of wood came over and stopped the first piece from taking out the 2-pin.
Yeah, it was on its way down.
Wow. Take another look at that. Watch the piece of wood will come off the wall from the right and then get stopped.
It was right there.
Bang.
Yep, that definitely had it down.
Scott Rondelli, woohoo! Slides that 4-pin.
Yeah, that's the 4.5 pin.
Makes this shot a little easier.
Yeah, you can't hardly punch out the 2-pin now.
Oh, would you believe it?
But you know what happened. But that pin moving over cost him the shot.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Again, Scott Rondelli is picking up his pins. So he's got one 8-box, and the rest are all 9-boxes or better.
Well, this could be interesting. The 1-3-7-8.
Yeah, it can go a couple of ways. Just try to split the 1-3.
Nope, too full on it. Left the 3-pin. Well, Scott will be in a position, certainly, to not only win the match, but also to take a run at that top qualifying score for the Tournament of Champions, which right now, again, is Pat Pay's 412. And Scott, with a 123, is at 278. So he is well within reach of that, what would be the top spot, at least for now.
He needs about a 145.
One 135 actually would do it.
That's right. Excuse me.
Right. I'm glad to see someone else is finally making some math errors. I've made more than my share, certainly, the last couple of weeks.
That's supposed to be my strong suit.
Mine, too. That's what's got me worried.
Left my calculator at home.
Yeah. That'll be a 9-box, or rather an 8-box. It'll be an 8-box. That'll be an 8-box as the ball hit off the wood in the channel before coming out to take the 2 pins. Watch. That is not a legal play.
Call that one right.
Wouldn't you know, Scott gets a break by getting the 2 pins, but it doesn't count.
Here we go. Just go right into the V.
Yes.
Didn't want to go down, but eventually did.
Scott's 5th mark, but he has been laboring. Have to have a ball removed by Dottie Larick. She's going to take that one home with her. Scott probably wants to get rid of him right now, I have a feeling. The way things have been going. Oh, he crossed over nicely that time for the strike in the 10th. So it's strike on spare for Scott Richardson.
Yeah, that was a nice ball.
And a 112, leaving him at 225. So a big 53-pin margin for Scott Rondelli with one string remaining. We'll be back to see how it all turns out, see where Scott Rondelli can place himself if, in fact, he wins the match. We'll be back with more. Don't go away. All right, here we go. One game remaining. I was about to say, Scott Richardson would probably love to just bury one and throw a strike, or maybe even two.
He'd like to throw that 177 high single right now.
Yeah. And to be honest, even that might not be enough.
That's right.
But certainly the only chance he has is to really throw a huge game here. Last week it was Chuck Langlois. The week before that it was Bob Francoeur that fell at the hands of Scott Richardson.
It's not a very helpful piece of wood. Just play the right-hand end of it.
Yes.
Or the 2 pins.
That's a good spare.
We would like to have had that first frame, though.
Right. Another look at that. The 2-4 with that tough piece of wood, and he went right by it. Well, Scott Rondelli had only 3 marks in the second string, but they all came together.
Ow! 128.
One of the few times he's punched out.
With the Adams party, come to the counter, please.
Six box for Scott. It's interesting, the difference in marks for the match is not that great. Scott Richardson has 7, including 3 strikes. Scott Rondelli has 9, including 4 strikes, but it's the double strike that really made the difference. Well, let's see what Scott will do here with the 5 and the 7 with wood moving into play.
He'll try to brush that left-hand wood on the way in.
Yes. Oh, that's a heck of a shot.
It was. It was. He saw it better than I saw it.
It was tough to see whether he had an angle on it that way.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that the right-hand wood had touched the 5-pin or not. And apparently it had.
On a spare, Scott Richardson with 7. Oh, somehow the 4-pin is still there. That's the kind of a day it's been.
Just got up a little bit too high on that wood. It could have been 3 in a row for him.
Yep. Oof. 159 punched out.
He almost made this last week. At this point, he'd be feel pretty good with an 8 count.
And he'll take a 7. A rather disgusted Scott Richardson now, I think. It's been a frustrating day for him.
Scott Rondelli needs to start doing some scoring here if he wants to move up in the ladder. The championship ladder.
There are 2 matches going on in one here. That's a 7 fill. And the 6, 7, 10 remaining. I don't know, would you take a crack at this piece of wood in front?
Depends on how far over it comes. Right now, it's too far away. It's too far left. Probably just try to bang the 2 pins and hope that something will come off the wall.
Gave it a try. Yes, it worked. Oh, baby. What a shot.
Well, I'm on a roll. That's 2 in a row, I called on.
The ball did nothing except hit the wood, and then it was up to the pins to do the rest. Oh, and there's a strike on spare. And we'll pause right here as Scott Rondelli is starting to pour it on again, and he has a little towel waved at him by Scott Richardson to try and cool him off. Now remember, Scott Rondelli, if he should move on to win here, he's looking for positioning in that Tournament of Champions. We'll be back to see how he fares after these words. Well, Scott Richardson was waving a towel at Scott Rondelli after that last strike. It occurred to me later that maybe he was just waving a surrender flag. That's what he said. It's been a tough day.
If he were a fighter, his manager would have yanked him by now.
That's right. But these things happen. And Scott missed that one too, and these things tend to build also.
Well, it's kind of a hopeless feeling when your opponent just keeps throwing spares and strikes at you all day. Scott's been on the head pin wall this game. He's had a number of spare leaves to shoot at.
Leaving the 5 pin.
A lot of close calls.
Couple of 10s, and now Scott Rondelli will come up working on a strike. Now keep in mind the target score for Scott Rondelli to be shooting at here is 135. If he hits a 135, he will become the new #1 seed, and he will guarantee himself no worse than being second in the Tournament of Champions. And there's another double strike, I think. Oh, I don't believe it. That pin looked like it was over before the 1 and 3 pins went over.
It did. It looked like it slided, yeah. What, it looked like it moved to the right a little bit.
Spare on strike. Never call a home run before it leaves the park.
Well, he missed the head pin that time too, which if you're going to get him legal.
5 count on this mark, 78.5, and it would seem that Scott is well on his way to getting that 135, although he'll need another mark or 2.
Yeah, he's going to want to get 2 more marks. And actually, he's going to need 2 marks probably to beat all 3 of those fellas that are that are up ahead of him.
That's right. Yeah, it's not a question of being the #1 seed, but keep in mind, Pat Pay 412, Bob Moran 411, Ed Arsenal 410. So it's very tightly bunched up there.
Here's one you don't want to see too often. 1-7.
Nope. Well, Scott Richardson and any other bowler who is not already qualified for the Tournament of Champions is eligible to try to join us again for our final regular series, which begins next week.
Ooh, nice try. Well, Scott did well. He got a couple of victories. He's got a chance to come back again.
Going to pick up a check for $500.
That's the way to do it. Come in second or third, and then come back and win it all.
We haven't seen Scott Rondelli make too many mistakes, particularly on the first ball. That time he punched out the 2, 8, and 9.
He's always right there in the target area. He makes some nice spare shots.
I'm sure that Scott Rondelli must be aware of the score that he's looking for here.
Yeah, tactically, I don't think that was a very good move. And he should have just gone for the 2 pins. I mean, every pin is so important now. He's trying to get them all, but it was so delicate a shot.
Ooh.
Oh, nice try.
He'll leave the 10 pin. Well, he'll have to do it on the last trip up.
May we have the Williams party, please? Williams.
He's 105 through 8, which means he needs 30 pins. He'll need 30 pins in the last 2 frames to move into that number 1 position. Means, of course, he'll have to have 2 marks.
He needs either 30 or 29 for second or 28 for third.
Could very well have a tie here before it's all over.
The only thing for sure is that he's beaten one of the bowlers that are up there. He'll be seated ahead of Mike Morgan.
Right. He only needs to pin about 15 pins to get ahead of Mike Morgan. Scott Richardson puts a spare up in the 9th.
Here comes Scott. That's what I was talking about in the on the 7th box when he only got 7. You know, each one of those pins is really important right now.
A 104 for Scott Richardson and a 329. So now it's just a question of where Scott Rondelli will be in our Tournament of Champions. He stands at 383 right now. 2 boxes remaining, and he really was upset about that ball. He looked down as soon as he threw it.
Yeah, he's really, you know, he throws so hard and he sees he is off balance when he reaches the line. He's got the triangle plus the 10 pin, and every pin means a lot right now.
Well, again, we'll just have to see how many pins he carries on this ball. Just 1.
He's got to throw a double.
Right, so that leaves him at 390. So even to catch Ed Arsenal in 3rd, he'll have to throw a spare strike or a strike spare.
That's right.
And let's see, may have a crack at it.
Ugly piece of wood right now. He's going to have to turn this wood in, left-hand end.
Nope. He gets these 2, he'll have a 400 even. Nope. It'll be an 8 and a 120, so it will be 398 for Scott Rondelli, which moves him just 1 pin ahead of Mike Morgan and into 4th place right now as the number 4 seed for the Tournament of Champions. But more importantly, he's won the $1,000 and he is in, so he doesn't have to worry about where he is. He has qualified for the Tournament of Champions. We'll talk to both bowlers and have the bonus ball contest after this. Well, hopefully this will make you feel a little better. Scott Richardson, a check for $500. We've got a plaque for you also from the N&R Trophy Company of Winchendon. It was tough. Obviously, a guy threw a great match at you, but you were struggling as well.
Yeah, just like trying to lasso a freight train out there. This one, I couldn't find my ball at all today.
Well, congratulations on the 2 wins, and of course the $500 check. And this will leave you eligible to come back and give it one final try in that last rollout.
I'll give it a shot.
All right, Scott. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. Scott Richardson, and after 2 wins, he finishes second with second prize money of $500 coming to us from Hudson, New Hampshire, of course. And now it's time once again for the bonus ball contest. Scott Rondelli. We'll give it a try here. We're looking for a $30 winner. And it's 8. Gary Duffett will do the honors. Come on over, Scott. We'll chat in just a second here. And it is a winner again for Jane Lacoste of Lowell, Massachusetts. Jane, you pick up a check for $30. We'll be sending that to you very shortly. And also, we'll have a new jackpot starting next week. And this man is $1,000 richer. Scott Rondelli, congratulations. You threw the big string in the first one. Why don't you slide in here so we can get you on camera? And you had that big first string, and I assume you knew where you had to go after that, what you needed in that third string for the Tournament of Champions.
Yeah, after the 6 box, I knew I needed roughly a mark and a 7. And I made it myself harder when I threw the 7 box, and I was going into a double mark situation. And I'm just happy I won this time. Didn't have to throw 400 this time.
I was going to say, the good news is you're in, so we'll be back. We'll be seeing you again in the Tournament of Champions in a couple of months.
I'll be glad to be here.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Scott Rondelli looking more relieved, I guess, than anything else. Of course, you want to try and qualify yourself in as high a position as possible, but he's in, and he will not be... he won't be the top seed, but he won't be the 6th seed either, so he'll have to work from someplace in the middle.
Well, he accomplished the major objective, which was to get there in the first place. And after that, it was all gravy. Unfortunately, he didn't get the marks he needed in the last 3 or 4 boxes to move him up in the ladder. But he's going to be there, and that's all you can ask at this point.
Gary, as always, a pleasure, a fine job, and we hope to see you again either here or over on the other side with the bowling shirt on real soon.
Well, I know I'll be trying hard to come on the show on the other side the next time, of course, along with everybody else in the state.
Thanks, Gary. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Gary Duffett filling in for Dan Murphy, who will return next week, and we will have a brand new group of 5 bowlers as we move into our final series, getting ready for our Tournament of Champions, which comes up in just 4 or 5 weeks' time. We'll be looking for our final qualifier, starting with that last series next week. Until then, for Gary Duffett, for Dan Murphy and the whole TV50 Sports crew, Doug Brown, bye-bye, everybody, from Park Place Lanes.
Thanks for tuning in to TV50's Candlepin Stars and Strikes. And now it's time to turn things over to Kimberly Carson and Movie Watch.
Thanks, JJ. We've got a great lineup of movies this afternoon, and I hope you'll stick around for Movie Watch, next on WNDS.